They called themselves the Dravari, a proud empire that had burned across the stars for over 1,000 years. Their fleets of silver warships were feared by every known species. Worlds fell before them, cities turned to ash, and resistance was a forgotten word. To the Dravari, war was nothing more than a process. They arrived, they conquered, they ruled. No one ever stood against them for long. Until the day they met the humans. It began quietly, on the far edge of Dravari space. A colony world named Threx 9 stopped sending its tribute shipments. A small thing at first, a delay, maybe a broken relay. But then, the scouts they sent to check never came back. No signals, no distress calls. Just silence. High Commander Serac didn't like silence. He ordered the 12th Fleet, 63 warships, to investigate. The fleet vanished within an hour of entering the Threx 9 system. Every ship gone. Not a single signal, not even a power signature. The Dravari did not believe in superstition. They believed in power, in weapons, in control. But this was something different. When the 9th Fleet arrived to search for answers, they found the wreckage of their own kind drifting in cold space. The ships were torn apart, sliced cleanly through armored hulls thicker than a building. Energy readings were strange, unknown. It was as if something had rewritten the laws of physics right there in the dark. Rumors began to spread through the fleets. Whispers of invisible ships. Ghosts that struck without warning. Weapons that fired from nowhere. The Dravari High Council silenced all talk, of course. But fear had already begun to move among their people. For the first time in 1,000 years, they were afraid of the dark. Commander Serac requested permission to deploy the full might of the Empire's Central Armada. He was granted his wish. 2,000 warships moved toward Threx 9, the largest fleet ever assembled. Entire planets watched the operation broadcast live, certain they would see the mysterious enemy crushed. The Dravari had never lost a war before, and they would not start now. The Armada entered the system at 0300 hours. And that was when the stars changed. At first, they thought it was interference, a trick of light, a cosmic reflection. But then the scanners showed it clearly, hundreds of new heat signatures appearing across the system. Ships. Thousands of them. They weren't Dravari. Their hulls were black as void, with sharp angular shapes like knives cutting through space. No known design matched them. No signals, no broadcasts. Only silence. Then one of them spoke. A calm voice echoed through every Dravari ship at once. It spoke in perfect Dravari language, though no one knew how. This territory is under human protection. Leave now. The bridge crew froze. Serac's second-in-command, Kelra, frowned. Humans, she said. What are? Before she could finish, the voice repeated, quieter this time. Leave now. And then, the human ships fired. It wasn't like any weapon the Dravari had ever seen. There was no beam, no missile trail, no explosion. Just silence, and then their ships started dying. Hulls split open like paper. Power cores went dark. Entire battlecruisers vanished into clouds of dust. Within minutes, half the Dravari armada was gone. Serac shouted orders. Return fire. All batteries. But the scanners couldn't even lock on. The human ships moved too fast, slipping through sensor shadows, jumping from one position to another as if teleporting. Every counterattack hit empty space. The Dravari were shooting ghosts. Kelra's hands trembled on the controls. Commander, there, everywhere. Serac clenched his jaw. Then we fight everywhere. He launched the last command, all remaining ships to scatter and retreat. But before they could, the voice came again. You invaded over 400 worlds. You burned cities. You thought no one could stop you. But you never met humans. The transmission ended. Then, the entire human fleet vanished. No hyperspace signature. No trace. Just gone, leaving the wreckage of 2,000 Dravari ships behind. Across the Dravari Empire, panic erupted. Every communication channel filled with desperate chatter. Who were these humans? How did they fight like this? And why now, after so long? Within hours, more Dravari systems fell silent. Fleets disappeared. Bases went dark. It was as if the humans were everywhere at once, appearing from the shadows, destroying, and vanishing again. Some called them demons. Others called them gods. But to Commander Serac, who barely survived the battle in a crippled escape pod, they were something worse. Something he couldn't understand. He watched from the drifting wreckage of his flagship as a single human warship appeared beside him, black and silent, like a blade cutting through starlight. A symbol glowed faintly on its hull, a blue circle with white stars. Then a voice filled his cockpit once more. "This is the United Terran Fleet. You have broken too many worlds. Now, the balance returns." The human ship vanished again, leaving Serac staring at the empty stars, his empire burning behind him. For the first time in his life, the great Commander Serac whispered something the Dravari language had almost forgotten. A word that meant fear. The escape pod drifted through endless darkness. Commander Serac floated in silence, his body weightless, his mind heavy. His empire, the great Dravari, was falling apart. Every report that reached him spoke of more disappearances. Whole fleets gone without trace. Entire planets silent. It felt like death itself had taken form, and it wore a human face. A rescue vessel finally found him, days later. When Serac stepped out, his once gleaming armor was cracked, burned black by energy he couldn't even name. The soldiers who greeted him lowered their eyes. None dared to speak first. Even they had heard the rumors that the humans could appear anywhere, in any system, at any time. Inside the command chamber of the Dravari High Council, the atmosphere was cold and tense. 12 towering figures sat in silver chairs that surrounded a glowing holographic map of their empire. Once, it had shone bright with the lights of thousands of systems. Now, more than half were dark. 57 worlds have gone silent, said Councillor Varric, his voice trembling. Not destroyed. Just gone. No communication, no readings, nothing. They must be using stealth fleets, another councillor argued. Or wormhole weapons. We must study this human technology. Serac's voice cut through their panic. You cannot study what you cannot see. All eyes turned to him. The room fell silent. I faced them, Serac continued, his tone calm but his eyes hollow. I saw their ships move faster than light without hyperspace trails. Their weapons cut through our shields like mist. Our scanners could not track them, because they were already gone before we could react. Councillor Varric leaned forward. Then what are they? Another ancient race returned from exile. Serac shook his head. They said they are human. From a place outside our mapped space. Then find their world, one shouted. We will burn it. But Serac didn't respond. His gaze drifted to the dark section of the holographic map, the frontier, where Dravari ships were disappearing. You do not understand, he whispered. You cannot fight what does not want to be found. Across the empire, fear spread faster than any enemy fleet. Citizens whispered in the streets. Soldiers refused to board ships. Commanders began abandoning posts. Some even surrendered without a fight, though to whom, no one could say. No one ever saw the humans land. No one ever saw them occupy a world. They simply appeared, destroyed, and vanished. Then one day, a signal appeared in the outer colonies. It wasn't Dravari, it was human. The message was short and broadcast in every language known. We do not seek your extinction. But your empire ends here. The High Council called it a declaration of war. The people called it a warning. Serac called it something worse, a judgment. The Dravari prepared for the impossible. Their engineers worked day and night, creating new ships, new weapons. They armed every fleet, every outpost, every soldier. For the first time in their history, they fought not for conquest, but survival. Weeks passed. The humans didn't attack. The silence returned, and that silence was more terrifying than any battle. The Dravari fleets began to question if the humans were even real. Some believed they were machines. Others said they were time travelers, coming from the future to punish them. Then came the day of the Echo Storm. At the edge of the Empire, in the Kareth system, Dravari scouts detected strange distortions in space, thousands of small ripples appearing at once. The commander there, a young officer named Velan, sent a warning transmission to the High Council. "It looks like hyperspace openings," he said. "But they're too small, too many." Before his transmission ended, the stars around him began to flicker. One by one, dark shapes emerged, hundreds, then thousands. Human warships. Their hulls reflected no light. Their formation was perfect, silent, terrifying. The Dravari fleet opened fire first. Thousands of plasma cannons lit up the void, filling space with green light. The human ships didn't move. The shots passed straight through them. "Are they projections?" Velan gasped. Then his sensors screamed. The real human ships decloaked behind them. In a single instant, the Kareth defense fleet, over 800 ships, was erased. No explosions, no fire. Just flashes of white light, and then silence. The High Council watched in horror as Velan's final broadcast reached them. Static, then his voice. "They are inside our systems. Inside our..." The signal ended. Serac stood alone in the council chamber, watching the darkness spread across the holographic map. "They're not fighting us," he said quietly. "They're erasing us." Councillor Varek slammed his fist on the table. "We cannot let them win." Serac turned toward him, his voice colder than space itself. "They have already won. We just haven't realized it yet." Outside the capital world of Dravar Prime, defense satellites began detecting unknown signatures in orbit. Thousands of them. And for the first time in recorded history, the skies of the Dravari homeworld filled with shadows. Human warships, everywhere at once. The final broadcast from Dravar Prime lasted only 7 seconds. It contained one sentence, sent by a terrified officer before the transmission cut off completely. "They are here." The sky of Dravar Prime burned. But there was no fire. People looked up from the shining towers and crowded streets as the clouds twisted into strange patterns of light. Thousands of black shapes drifted above the atmosphere, human warships, silent and motionless, blocking the sun. The capital world of the Dravari Empire was wrapped in shadow. No one spoke. No one moved. For the first time in history, the great Dravari people felt small. High Commander Serac stood at the window of the Imperial Citadel, his reflection trembling against the glass. "So," he whispered, "they found us." Councillor Varek stormed into the room, his voice filled with anger and fear. "We must fight. We still have planetary defenses. Ground cannons. Fighters. We..." Serac cut him off with a quiet voice. "And what will you fight, Varek? The ghosts that erased our fleets? The ships that move faster than our scanners can blink?" He turned toward the window. "They didn't come here to fight. They came to end something." The ground shook. Not from an explosion, but from pressure. Something massive entered orbit. The sensors screamed as a colossal human flagship appeared, larger than any Dravari city. It hung above the planet like a moon of metal. Its hull was marked with glowing letters no Dravari could read, but one symbol stood out, a blue circle with white stars. Then, the voice returned. Calm. Cold. Perfectly clear. "This is Admiral Kira Holt of the United Terran Fleet. The Dravari Empire has been found guilty of extermination, enslavement, and planetary cleansing. Your fleets are neutralized. Your weapons are offline. Surrender peacefully." The words echoed across every screen, every speaker, every comm link. Even deep in the Undercity, the poorest citizens heard it. Some fell to their knees. Others ran. A few shouted for resistance, but no one followed them. Counselor Varek slammed his fists on the control table. They dare to judge us? We ruled this galaxy long before they even crawled from their home world. Serac didn't reply. He stared at the massive human ship above them, and for the first time, he noticed something strange. The humans weren't destroying cities. They weren't firing. They were scanning. Searching. Then, one of the council technicians gasped. "Commander, they're not locking on to our military bases. They're scanning for life signs." "Civilians, sir." "What?" Varek barked. "Why?" Before anyone could answer, a blinding white light covered the horizon. The city's power grid shut down. All systems went silent. A column of light extended from the human flagship, reaching down to the surface. Serac stepped closer to the window. The beam wasn't a weapon. It didn't explode or burn. It opened, like a doorway. And from it, small craft descended slowly, shaped like smooth black spears. Human landing ships. Dravari soldiers surrounded the citadel, weapons ready. No one fired. The first human craft landed in the main square. Its surface hissed, split open, and 4 figures stepped out. They were tall. Not monstrous, not glowing, not robotic. Just human. Flesh and blood. Their armor was matte gray, marked with the same blue circle and white stars. Their movements were calm, precise. No fear. No rage. Just purpose. The leading human removed her helmet. A woman with pale skin and dark eyes looked around the alien city with quiet sadness. Serac felt something strange, a flicker of recognition. Not of her face, but of the way she looked at the world. Like someone who had seen too much war. The humans walked forward. The Dravari soldiers aimed their rifles, but Serac raised his hand. "Stand down," Varek shouted. "You can't be serious. They are the enemy." "They could have killed us hours ago," Serac said quietly. "But they didn't." The humans stopped a few meters away. The woman's voice was calm. "You are Commander Serac?" Serac nodded slowly. "And you are the one who destroyed my empire." She looked at him for a long moment. "No," she said. "Your empire destroyed itself. We just ended the noise." He didn't respond. He wanted to hate her, to scream, to fight, but there was something in her eyes. Something that didn't belong to a conqueror. It was regret. "Why?" he asked. "Why now? Why us?" The human looked toward the sky, where hundreds of ships drifted like shadows. "Because we found what you did," she said softly. "On the worlds you burned. On the colonies you forgot. You called it expansion. We call it genocide." Serac's voice cracked. "So you come as executioners?" She shook her head. "No. As reminders." At that moment, another light appeared in the sky, a small one this time, descending from orbit. A transmission echoed through the citadel. "Admiral Holt, Phase 2 complete. Evacuation corridors established. Civilians being transferred safely." Serac frowned. "Evacuation? What are you doing?" "We're saving your people," the human said. "From what's coming next." "What is coming?" Varek demanded. The woman looked at him with cold eyes. "The other species. The ones you ruled, enslaved, and destroyed. They know you're weak now. They're coming for revenge." Serac's heart sank. The Dravari had made too many enemies, dozens of civilizations crushed under their rule. And now, with their fleets gone, they were defenseless. The human stepped closer. "We didn't come to conquer you, Commander. We came to make sure there's something left when the others arrive." Outside, the human fleet began moving, forming massive shields across the sky, surrounding the planet like guardians. For a brief, impossible moment, the Dravari realized the truth. The humans weren't their destroyers. They were their protectors. And yet, Serac couldn't shake the feeling that protection always came with a price. Days passed on Dravar Prime. The skies remained filled with human warships, silent and motionless, but constantly scanning the planet. The people of Draver Prime watched from their homes, unsure whether to fear them or thank them. For the first time in centuries, there were no patrols, no armies moving through the streets, only an uneasy calm. Commander Serac walked through the ruined corridors of his once grand palace. Counselor Varek followed, muttering curses under his breath. Soldiers had been ordered to lower their weapons, but they still carried them, just in case. Serac had never seen his empire like this, silent, powerless, and strangely alive in its own quiet way. Then the humans called him again. This time, not through a loudspeaker, but through a single screen that appeared in the Imperial Council chamber. The pale woman, Admiral Kira Holt, looked at him, calm and unyielding. Behind her, the massive flagship glowed faintly, its hull covered in tiny moving lights that seemed to map the stars themselves. "Commander Serac," she said, "you must understand something. Your empire ruled by fear, but fear only builds walls. It does not build safety." Serac's jaw tightened. "And yet your arrival shattered those walls." "Exactly," she said. "You are standing on the edge of total collapse. The species you conquered, they are forming alliances. They are preparing to attack Draver Prime. If we had not arrived, your people would be wiped out within weeks." Varek spat on the floor. "You call this protection? You save them while destroying everything we built." Serac silenced him with a glance. "Listen," he said. "Why us? Why not let the Dravari Empire fall like it should?" Kira Holt leaned forward. Her dark eyes seemed to pierce him. "Because the galaxy does not only consist of empires. It consists of life. You have made enemies of countless worlds. Those worlds will not stop at destroying your empire, they will hunt every Dravari alive. Even the innocent." Serac clenched his fists. He knew it was true. For decades, he had led campaigns that left entire planets scorched. He had thought of conquest as destiny. Now he understood that destiny had a price, one he could not pay alone. "And yet," Kira continued, "we cannot simply forgive the Dravari. The punishment must be measured. We save the people to prevent total annihilation, but the Empire's crimes will not go unnoticed." Serac swallowed hard. "Then what do you want from me?" Kira's gaze shifted, as if scanning something beyond the chamber. "We need you to guide your people through the coming storm. Show them the truth of what your empire did. Help them survive, or watch them perish." Varek barked, "We will never submit to humans. They are invaders, liars, interlopers." The human admiral ignored him. Instead, she continued, "Your fleets are gone. Your weapons are neutralized. Your authority exists only in words now. If you resist, you will not survive the retaliation of the other species." Serac felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on him. He had been a commander, a conqueror, a master of worlds. Now, he was a caretaker of survivors. The truth sank deep into him. He had no choice but to follow them. Meanwhile, across the city, humans began evacuating civilians from the lower districts. They moved quickly, silently, and with precision. Every Dravari child, elder, and worker was given a safe passage to orbiting transports. Their weapons glinted in the sunless sky, but no one fired. They were guardians, not oppressors. Late that night, Serac walked alone on the observation deck. He stared at the vast human fleet surrounding the planet. Thousands of ships, massive and silent, like stone sentinels in the void. He could see the other planets in the system, each marked by a single, small blinking light. The humans were everywhere, watching everything. He whispered to himself, "They are not just saving us. They are preparing for something." And he was right. The humans were not just protecting Draver Prime, they were preparing for war on a scale the Dravari could not yet imagine. The alliance of conquered species was moving. Rumors from intercepted signals spoke of fleets larger than anything the Dravari Empire had ever seen. Thousands of ships, united by vengeance and hatred, marching toward the heart of Dravari space. Serac felt a chill. He had conquered worlds without fear, defeated enemies he thought unbeatable, and yet, he realized he had never faced anything like this. He had never seen life so determined, so united, and so patient. The humans had not come to fight him, they had come to stop the war before it reached the galaxy itself. He turned back toward the council chamber. Varek was pacing again, muttering threats, unwilling to face the truth. Serac knew he had to act quickly. The Dravari could survive this storm, but only if they accepted guidance, if they faced their crimes, if they abandoned their pride. The first step was simple, yet terrifying. Admit defeat, cooperate, and learn from those they had once destroyed. The humans had offered survival, not victory. And for the Dravari, survival was all that remained. Above the planet, the massive human flagship blinked once, a signal only Serac noticed. A reminder that every second mattered, every choice had consequences, and that the galaxy was no longer theirs to command. In the silence of the observation deck, Serac finally whispered, "Perhaps, the galaxy has judged us fairly." Weeks passed, and the Dravari Empire struggled to adjust. The human fleet remained in orbit, silent guardians. Commander Serac worked tirelessly, organizing evacuations, repairing what little infrastructure remained, and trying to prepare his people for what was coming. The citizens were scared but alive, and for the first time, survival mattered more than pride. Then the signals arrived. Massive fleets, dark and jagged, appeared on the edge of known Dravari space. These were no humans. These were the united species the Dravari had conquered over centuries. Entire alliances moved as one. Thousands of ships, weapons blazing, shields crackling, engines screaming through space. Their banners were strange, alien, but all carried one message: vengeance. The first reports came from scouts. Worlds once under Dravari control were burning, but not from human attack, Dravari ships attempting to fight back. Every system the Dravari tried to hold collapsed in hours. The empire that had ruled with fear was unraveling before its own eyes. Serac gathered the remaining council members and senior commanders in the capital's war room. Holographic displays flickered, showing the massive approaching fleets. "They will strike the inner colonies within 2 days," Serac said. His voice was calm but urgent. "If we fight as before, we will be annihilated." Varek slammed his fist against the table. "Then we surrender. Admit defeat." "No," Serac replied. "We fight. But not as we did before. Not alone. We fight together, with the humans." The room went silent. Some officers looked shocked. Some looked terrified. Varek hissed, "You would side with them? The invaders who crushed our fleets." "They are not invaders," Serac said firmly. "They are the only reason anyone is still alive. If we follow their plan, we can survive this storm. If we fight on our own, we are finished." The first engagement began hours later. The alien alliance struck the outlying colony of Trellis 4. Dravari defenses there were primitive compared to the invaders' fleets, but they held the planet's orbital stations with the help of human forces. Serac watched the battle from the Citadel's command center. Human ships moved with precision unmatched by Dravari standards. They appeared behind enemy formations, destroyed capital ships instantly, and shielded civilians from orbital bombardment. It was as if every human knew exactly where to be and what to do. And then Serac noticed something terrifying. The humans didn't just destroy ships, they incapacitated them. Weapon systems offline, engines frozen, crews unconscious. No ships were annihilated completely. Every attack was surgical. "They're sparing them," whispered one of Serac's aides. "Why?" Serac didn't answer. He already suspected. Humans were not like the Dravari. They did not kill to conquer. They killed to protect, and to teach. The battle on Trellis lasted for hours, but by the end, the alien forces were pushed back. Hundreds of Dravari ships remained, most damaged but functional. The humans had saved the planet, and the Dravari people, without annihilating a single enemy entirely. As the fleets withdrew, Serac addressed his commanders. This is the first time we fight not for power, but to survive. Listen to the humans. Learn from them. We may not like it, but if we fail, everything ends. Varek stormed out, muttering curses. Serac knew some would never accept this alliance. But others, young commanders, eager soldiers, were already learning to cooperate with the humans, coordinating attacks, adjusting strategies, and understanding that mercy could be a weapon more powerful than fear. Then came the first intelligence report that chilled Serac to the bone. A scouting ship returned with a transmission from a Dravari world previously thought loyal. Commander, the humans' warning was only the beginning. There is something else. Something in the darkness beyond the system. A force waiting, patient, watching us. Not one of the known species. Not even us. Something old. Serac studied the stars beyond Dravar Prime, the ones untouched by the recent wars. He felt the same fear he hadn't felt in centuries. Something bigger than vengeance, bigger than humans, bigger than any alliance, was out there. And it was coming. He turned to the human Admiral Kira Holt. There's more than them. She nodded, her face grim. We've detected something. We don't know exactly what it is yet. But it's why we acted now, before the other species could finish what they started. If we wait, there may be nothing left to save. Serac swallowed hard. His empire was crumbling. His people were scared. His fleets were broken. Yet for the first time, he felt a strange kind of hope. Not for victory. Not for conquest. But for survival. And in survival, perhaps, redemption. The next battle would not just decide the fate of Dravari space, it would reveal whether humanity's protection was enough to stand against the fury of the galaxy. Above the planet, the human fleet blinked once, a silent reminder that they were watching, waiting, and ready. And somewhere, beyond the edge of known space, something ancient stirred, sensing the chaos below. The war for survival had only begun. The calm before the storm lasted only a day. By the second morning, the stars themselves seemed to shiver. Dravari scouts, now working alongside humans, reported strange signals from deep space, distortions unlike anything they had ever seen. These were not hyperspace jumps. Not cloaked ships. Not conventional weapons. Something older, colder, and far more dangerous. Commander Serac stood on the observation deck of Dravar Prime, looking at the blackness of the void. "What is it?" he asked, though he already feared the answer. Admiral Kira Holt stepped beside him. Her face was pale, her eyes sharp. "Something ancient," she said. "Before the Dravari Empire. Before humanity spread to the stars. A force older than war itself. And it has awakened." Serac felt a chill crawl down his spine. He had fought countless species, conquered worlds, and seen the horrors of war. Yet he could feel instinctively that whatever was coming, it was beyond any battle he had faced. Suddenly, every sensor in the system screamed alarms. Hundreds of unknown objects were detected moving through the void at impossible speeds. They weren't ships, they were massive, irregular shapes, glowing faintly in white energy. They moved as one, a single organism of destruction. Varek entered the observation chamber, panic written across his face. "What are those?" Kira Holt's voice was calm but firm. "They are called the Veilborn. Very little is known. Only legends exist among ancient human colonies. They feed on war, chaos, and death. And now, they are moving toward this sector." The room went silent. Even Varek, who had cursed humans and Serac for days, understood the gravity of the situation. "They're unstoppable?" Serac asked. Kira Holt shook her head. "Not entirely. But conventional weapons will do nothing. Only coordinated effort, combined strategy, and advanced technology, some of which we are sharing with you, can slow them down." Serac's eyes narrowed. "So we fight together?" She nodded. "We fight together. Or we die alone." The first Veilborn craft reached the outer colonies. Entire cities disappeared in seconds. Not explosions. Not fire. Just a wave of energy that disintegrated metal, glass, and life. Panic spread faster than any army. Dravari civilians scrambled toward human evacuation corridors, while fleets scrambled to intercept. Serac led a fleet of Dravari and human ships. The humans taught them formations, strategies, and even restraint. Their weapons struck with precision, targeting Veilborn nodes that pulsed with dangerous energy. Hundreds of Dravari ships were lost, but the combined forces managed to slow the advance, buying hours of survival. On the battlefield, Serac saw the humans' true power. Their ships moved faster than thought, weaving between attacks and striking with coordinated perfection. Shields reformed instantly, energy beams curved impossibly, and sometimes ships disappeared entirely before striking again. Humans fought not only with weapons, but with intelligence, strategy, and timing. During a brief pause in the battle, Serac found himself aboard a human command ship, standing beside Kira Holt. She looked at the view screen showing the Veilborn swarm. "They adapt quickly," she said. "Every strike we make, they learn. Every tactic we use, they find a counter. But we've trained the Dravari. Together, we might stand a chance." Serac swallowed. "And if we fail?" She didn't flinch. "Then your empire ends. Your people end. And the galaxy will burn." The next wave hit faster than anyone expected. Dozens of Veilborn forms descended simultaneously on the central colonies. Dravari ships fought bravely, but alone, they were nothing. Only with humans at their side could they resist. Cities burned. Fleets fell. And yet, hope persisted. In the chaos, Serac realized something important. Humans did not fight for glory. They did not fight for conquest. They fought for survival, and they inspired the Dravari to fight not out of fear, but out of purpose. For the first time, Serac felt pride, not as a conqueror, but as a leader who could protect life. The Dravari soldiers, guided by human tactics, began turning battles around. Strategic strikes, precise maneuvers, and coordinated defenses forced the Veilborn to retreat in small sections. It was not victory. Not yet. But it was survival. As the last Veilborn forms withdrew temporarily, Serac looked at the burning skies and the fleet of humans and Dravari together. He realized the truth. The Dravari Empire was no longer what it had been. It had changed. And perhaps, under the guidance of these humans, it could survive. Not through fear, but through courage. Kira Holt turned to him. "The Veilborn are patient. They will return. And next time, they may bring the full force of what they are capable of." Serac clenched his fists. "Then we prepare. We fight. And we will not run." Above Dravar Prime, the human fleet blinked once, a silent promise of protection. Below, the Dravari people stirred with a newfound hope. And far beyond the stars, the Veilborn waited, watching, learning, readying themselves for the next wave of war. The war for survival had entered a new, terrifying phase. But for the first time, the Dravari were not alone. The void of space burned with energy. The Veilborn had returned, not a small strike this time, but the full force of their ancient power. Thousands of massive forms, glowing with cold white energy, descended upon Dravar Prime and the surrounding colonies. Entire fleets trembled under their presence. Commander Serac stood on the bridge of the human flagship, surrounded by Dravari commanders who had once scoffed at the humans. Now, they relied on them completely. The combined fleet stretched across the system, a tapestry of Dravari ships guided by human precision. Admiral Kira Holt addressed them all. "This is the final stand. The Veilborn will not negotiate. They will not show mercy. Every ship, every soldier, every decision matters. We survive, together, or we die, together." Serac's hands clenched the rail. "Then we fight, not as conquerors, but as protectors." The battle began with a deafening roar of energy. Veilborn forms advanced, their massive limbs of light tearing through the vacuum like ghosts. Dravari fleets opened fire, but without human coordination, their weapons were useless. Only with humans leading formations, guiding attacks, and shielding key positions did the Dravari ships find a chance to survive. Serac watched as a Dravari cruiser was about to be destroyed. A human ship darted in front, firing a beam that sliced the Veilborn form apart, saving hundreds of lives. The Dravari soldiers cheered, not for destruction, but for survival. Hours turned into days. The Veilborn adapted, learning every strike, every tactic. But the humans adapted faster. They taught the Dravari to fight smarter, not harder. They combined technology, strategy, and intuition in a way the Dravari had never imagined. Slowly, the tide began to shift. Then came the final maneuver. Admiral Holt directed Serac's flagship to the core of the Veilborn swarm. "We strike the heart," she said. "It's the only way to end this." The core pulsed with energy, massive and terrifying. Serac felt the weight of every life in the system on his shoulders. If they failed, all would be lost. But if they succeeded, perhaps the Dravari Empire, and the galaxy, could survive. The combined fleet launched a coordinated assault. Dravari and human ships moved as one, weaving through the Veilborn defenses, striking at precise points, and retreating before the ancient force could react. Serac himself led the charge, guiding his fleet with newfound wisdom, not arrogance. The Veilborn roared, an echo that rattled through space itself. Their core writhed, sending waves of energy that destroyed dozens of ships. But the humans were ready. Energy shields shimmered, deflecting the worst of the attack, while targeted strikes from both Dravari and human vessels struck the core again and again. Finally, the moment came. The core fractured. White light exploded outward, engulfing the remaining Veilborn forms. They screamed, not with sound, but with energy, and vanished into the void, leaving the fleets battered but alive. Silence fell across the system. Dravari and human ships floated among the wreckage, exhausted but victorious. Serac gazed at the empty stars, realizing the battle was won, but the war had changed everything. Admiral Holt approached him. "The Veilborn are gone, for now," she said. "But the galaxy is watching. Alliances will shift. Powers will rise. Your people have a choice: continue as before, or learn from this." Serac looked at his fleet, at the survivors, at the people who had once feared humans, and now owed them their lives. "We will learn," he said quietly. "We will survive. And we will protect, not destroy." Varek, battered and humbled, finally spoke. "Perhaps we can change." "Perhaps," Serac replied. "But only if we remember this moment, and those who saved us." The humans began repairs and prepared to depart. Their fleet shimmered and then vanished, leaving the Dravari to rebuild their empire, but this time, not as tyrants, not as conquerors, but as guardians of their people and the stars. For the first time in centuries, the Dravari looked at the galaxy with hope rather than fear. They had survived impossible odds, not through domination, but through alliance, courage, and learning from those they once considered weaker. Serac stood on Dravar Prime, watching the sunrise over the cities. The scars of war were everywhere, but life endured. Children played in streets once filled with soldiers. Families rebuilt homes once destroyed by conquest. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, the humans watched, not as rulers, but as silent protectors. The Dravari Empire had changed forever. And in that change, they found a new strength: the courage to face the future, the wisdom to respect life, and the hope that even the darkest past could lead to a brighter tomorrow. The galaxy had tested them, and for the first time, the Dravari truly understood what it meant to survive.